Welcome to Trial Site News Weekly Roundup. My name is Adrian, and I'll be going over some of our top news stories from this past week. Please click the subscribe button and ring the bell to be notified of future videos. This week we start our roundup with a flu-related story. Investigators from the Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai have received a $132 million grant from the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases of the National Institute of Health as part of a new collaborative influenza vaccine innovation centers. As part of a new collaborative influenza vaccine innovation centers program to further develop the universal flu vaccine. Now, this represents a positive data point for a big push to develop a universal flu vaccine, and we'll keep an eye on the story as it continues to develop. Turning now to clinical trial-related news. Moderna, a venture pioneering RNA therapeutics and vaccines to create a new generation of transformative medicines for patients, announced the Food and Drug Administration, or the FDA, has completed their review of the investigational new drug IND application for mRNA-3927. Its investigational mRNA therapeutic for Propionic Acidemia, or PA, and allowed it to proceed to clinical trials. They will now move the investigational product to phase 1 and 2 clinical trials in patients with propionic acidemia. Elsewhere in clinical trial-related news, Veeva recently pushes the envelope in an industry it has already disrupted by offering SiteVault free at no charge to clinical investigational sites. The California-based life science cloud software company can transform sponsor to site digital engagement even more. If Veeva can successfully secure a large market share with research sites, it places the Silicon Valley-based company in an extremely strategic position in biopharma. Continuing on with clinical trial-related news, a boutique clinical research organization, CRO, focusing on analgesic studies called Lotus Clinical Research, recently noted in the news that 2 of its team members presented its Veeva's 2019 Research and Development Summit to discuss the use of Veeva's Vault for CDMS, combining electronic data capture, data cleaning, and reporting in a single cloud platform for clinical data management. Veeva claims that by adopting their cloud-based CDMs, that CROs such as Lotus can accelerate database faster and improve efficiency for clinical trial study teams. Lotus has been a Vault CDMS early adopter. In an incredibly ambitious run, the first wave of clinical data management clients are starting to assess results. The stakes are big. If Veeva pulls off a unified clinical data and document management system that works well, they will have another big spurt of growth. Elsewhere in clinical trial-related news, that the state of Utah's economy has been on a rapid rise over the last decade is not new news. Known as a regional technology hub, Silicon Slopes, it has also been a magnet for corporate headquarters and regional operating centers, from Goldman Sachs, Adobe, and SAP, Qualtrics, to the National Securities Agency's, NSA, decision to set up and operate its globally focused data center. Things are definitely happening in the Beehive state, but less known and just as significant, the life sciences sector flourishes in Utah, with a nexus in the capital of the Intermountain West, the Salt Lake City metro area. Utah life sciences is booming. There are over 1,500 clinical trials occurring in Utah, and that number is growing. BioUtah, a trade association, also holds its annual conference called Utah Life Science Summit coming up in November. Interesting. Turning now to cancer-related stories. Merck presented interim data from the Phase 3 Keynote-522 trial in patients with early-stage triple-negative breast cancer at the European Society for Medical Oncology, or ESMO, 2019 Congress. The trial investigated a regimen of neoadjuvant Keytruda plus chemotherapy followed by adjuvant Keytruda as monotherapy compared with a regimen of neoadjuvant chemotherapy followed by adjuvant placebo. The data is from the first randomized trial of anti-PD-1 therapy in the neoadjuvant-adjuvant setting for triple-negative breast cancer. Elsewhere in cancer-related news, biotech represents a risky business with high stakes. Payouts can be high, but the failures can be very, very low. Tocagen experienced the negative side of the biotech as one of its late-stage clinical trial programs, an investigational gene therapy treatment for the most aggressive forms of cancer, failed. Consequently, it must now reduce 65% of its workforce. About 30 will experience the layoff from the San Diego-based venture. They are publicly traded at NASDAQ Toca. Elsewhere in cancer-related news, the nation's first immuno-oncology-focused contract research organizations, or the CRO, was launched in Florida as Moffitt Cancer Center announced today that they launched a first-of-its-kind CRO focused on accelerating immunotherapy research. A new subsidiary, it represents a one-stop shop for industry sponsors, for example, biopharma companies, to accelerate their immuno-oncology and cell therapy research through collaborative clinical trial support and administration. Continuing on with cancer-related news, Barry Kramer, former director of the NCI Division of Cancer Prevention, has received the People's Republic of China Friendship Award, the highest honor given to non-citizens. Meanwhile, in other cancer-related news, Lindsay Whitten was diagnosed with stage 2 triple-negative breast cancer. The 3 common types of receptors known to fuel breast cancer growth were absent. Due to the type of cancer, many treatments were not available. A meeting with her physician at Norton Cancer Institute, Dr. Leila Agarwal, to discuss how chemotherapy would work led to a discussion about immunotherapy, and the rest was history. Elsewhere in clinical trial-related news, connected with University of Hawaii Cancer Care, Cancer Care, Guam's FHP Health Center funding was renewed for another 6 years as part of the National Cancer Institute's Community Oncology Research Program. An important milestone as studies reveal rural or isolated area residents do not have access to innovative cancer treatments, including clinical trials. Funding opens access to minority access and participation in research and is made possible thanks to the ongoing commitment of all involved. And now we turn to AI-related news. Artificial intelligence is expanding in drug development in a big way. In the latest deal, Novartis and Microsoft have come together to capitalize on advanced Microsoft AI technology combined with Novartis' deep life sciences-based drug discovery and development expertise to find new ways to address the challenges underlying every phase of drug development, from discovery and clinical trials through manufacturing operations and finance. Turning now to autoimmune-related news. Helper T cells are white blood cells that launch an inflammatory attack on the brain and spinal cord when a person has multiple sclerosis, or MS, an autoimmune disorder. Boston Children's Hospital pinpoints the specific subgroup of helper T cells that cause MS, as well as protein on their surface called CXCR6 that marks them. A promising antibody targeting CXCR6 both prevented and reversed MS in a mouse model. Trial Site News will track the development of CXCR6. Sign up for our daily digest if you want updates. And now we turn to opioid-related news. The Pygmy tribes of Central Africa have known for centuries of a special plant with magical properties for medicinal purposes. The Bwiti utilized ibogaine for spiritual as well as medicinal uses. Europeans discovered the substance via the French colonial expedition by the 1890s. In 1962, it was claimed by a Howard Lotzoff that ibogaine had anti-addictive properties, while in France it was used as a stimulant. The U.S. Central Intelligence Agency, or the CIA, studied the substance in the 1950s. Ibogaine is currently not approved for any medical use. However, now the investigational substance for a couple clinical trials. The sponsors, one a center in Brazil and the other a university in Spain, focuses on whether ibogaine can help a patient fight alcohol and opioid addiction. And now we turn to neurological related news. A research team involving Stanford UCSF and Cambridge University has concluded that a drug may help children with a deadly neurological disorder known as Pelizaeus-Merzbacher disease. Turning now to SiteWatch-related news stories. Rather than interviewing subjects or administering questionnaires, Bapapatiya Mandal and his colleagues used an AI program to study the body movements of autistic children in YouTube videos. However, the children and the parents did not opt in to have their home videos used for scientific research. Troubling. Turning now to an Alzheimer-related news story. The National Institutes on Aging, a part of the National Institutes of Health, is funding 2 new research centers under the Alzheimer's Centers for the Discovery of New Medicines, with more than $73 million over the next 5 years. Exciting stuff, and we'll keep an eye on the story as it continues to develop. Do you have any clinical news you'd like us to report on? If so, let us know. Contact information is in the box below. If you'd like to watch more videos, click on the playlists here. Thank you for joining us for this week's Trial Site News Roundup. And remember, subscribe and ring the bell to be notified of updates. We'll see you next time.